Okay, here we are today with today's lesson, Production Design, the Basics. Production design establishes the look of a film. It's the visual interpretation of the film. So you've got the script that's got the story, and production design is how it comes into three-dimensional fruition. If you're a production designer, you've been handed a script, you've got to figure out how things are going to look. You're starting from scratch. There are four things you first have to consider as you're developing your idea of how the script is going to look, how the film is going to look. One is the setting. We've talked about setting in terms of screenplay. Production design also has to consider this. Is this in present day? Is it in the past? Is it in the future? Is it in the country? Is it in the city? Is it in America? Is it in Spain? Is it in Guatemala? Is it somebody's the character is well-to-do? Is so you've got an apartment of a wealthy person or a home of a wealthy person. Is it the home of a poor person? You've got to consider all these things before you can make your decision about how things are going to look. Economic class. I touched upon this in setting. Are these people rich? Are they poor? Are they middle class? Because if you're thinking about designing, say, a kitchen, say you have a scene that's going to be set in the kitchen, how you're going to design it's going to look very different if the people are wealthy, or if they're middle class, or if they're poor. Are you going to have formica? Are you going to have marble? Economic class is going to influence all of this. Personality. You've got somebody who is well off, so you're going to have a very nice kitchen with granite countertops and high-end appliances, but they're fun and funky, so maybe they have some really interesting dishes, or maybe they are very attached to their family, so they have one of those high-end Sub-Zero refrigerators, but they've got kids' drawings with colorful magnets all over the refrigerator. So the personality of the characters comes into play when developing production design. And then symbolism. Just like we talked about symbolism in screenplay, production design can be used to create symbols and have meaning. Production designer is in charge of certain aspects of the film. We call those job areas. For the purposes of the class, these will be the tools that you will be analyzing when you do your analysis. One is locations. If you are a production designer, it makes a difference whether you're going to be filming a scene on location or whether you're going to be filming on a set. A set takes place in the studio. You actually build it from scratch, so you're decorating everything from scratch. If you're on a location, some things are preset, but a production designer will play around a lot. So it may seem counterintuitive, but a lot of times a movie will pay a whole lot of money to rent a location, and then the production designer will go in and change everything around. I worked on a film that was a dance film set in the mountains, and the production designer was planting fake flowers in the mountains because apparently God's design was not quite good enough. So production designers consider every aspect of how the visual is going to look. So even if it's location, they're going to be changing a whole lot of stuff, but that's the first thing that they have to think about is this location or is it a set? For the purpose of analysis, you cannot tell the difference unless it's a very stylized film, which you're supposed to be able to tell the difference. You will not be able to tell. So you will analyze location/set, because that will be one entry. Then you have set decor. Okay, so you've decided the walls are going to be a dark green and it's going to be very small and closed in, but now you're going to decorate it. So set decor is the film equivalent of your decorations. Props are set decor that an actor touches. So if no one touches it, it is set decor. If we were doing a film of a classroom, there would be notebooks and pens and the whiteboard, and are there erasers and are there whiteboard pens? And the production designer would actually be thinking, what color of the whiteboard pens? They actually go that detailed. If it just sits there, it's set decor. If the actor playing the teacher picks up the whiteboard pen and writes on the whiteboard, then they become props. Costumes. This is the film equivalent of clothes. The costumes. What is it that the characters are wearing? Hair and makeup. That falls under production design. And special effects. Even though nowadays most of the time special effects are done in post-production, originally that would be the special effects have all been filmed during the filming, and the production designers were in charge of that. So special effects is still under the purview of production design. Now, when you go to analyze those aspects, elements of design are one of the ways you're going to be analyzing. So you're looking at a scene and you want to analyze the production design. You're going to be looking at the set or location. You're going to be looking at the set decor and props. You're going to be looking at costumes. You're going to be looking at hair and makeup. You're going to be looking at special effects. How do you go about analyzing them? Well, one of the ways is elements of design. Line, shape, color, texture, dimension, and repetition. Line. Vertical lines. Now, these may be literal lines, but more likely it is the way the set is constructed and way the set decor is laid out. So vertical lines tend to imply rigidity, tension, impending action. These vertical lines may be, say, they decide to panel a room. So there's all the vertical lines that are created by the panel lines. Now, when we say that they suggest these things, these are what they're most often used for. But remember that production designers are artists, and artists like to play with the rules. So you can't look at a scene and say, oh, they're vertical lines, it must be rigidity and tension. You look at a scene and say, gosh, there's a lot of vertical lines. Is it showing rigidity and tension, or are they showing something else? Horizontal, so a lot of horizontal lines usually indicate balance, tranquility, stability. Angled or diagonal lines, action, confusion, dynamic force. So if there's a lot of angled or diagonal lines, usually something is about to happen or something is happening. Curved lines usually reflect softness, flexibility, peace, or harmony. And straight lines are pretty straightforward. Ha ha ha. Something else you would look at is shape. Square shapes tend to show rigidity or tension. Triangular shapes tend to show dynamic force or stability. Round shapes tend to show movement, flexibility, or harmony. Again, tend to, not always, tend to. So when you're analyzing, you start with that and then you check and see if the film that you're looking at fits in with that, or is the artist breaking the rules. Color. When we're talking about color, we talk about hue, which is the actual basic color, yellow, green, red. The intensity of the color, brightness or dullness, a very bright, shiny yellow carries a very different feel to it than a very dull and muted yellow. Brightness, modern times or vibrant characters, enthusiasm, power, activity. Warm colors tend to show affection, love, acceptance, or time period. Cold colors tend to communicate disdain, frigidity, insensibility, or coldness, winter or dark ages. We're also looking at texture. If the texture of either the set decor or the costumes are rugged, rough, dull, this often shows a character that's oppressive or blunt, uneducated, uncouth, rustic. Sometimes it will reflect the time period or the setting. Sometimes it can be used to show softness or naturalness. So if you're looking at a character and you're like, why are they wearing a skirt made of suede versus a skirt made of vinyl? That's telling us something about the character. If something is smooth and shiny, it tends to reflect sophistication, worldliness, or superficiality, harmony, equality, peace, futuristic society, or advanced society. Notice some of these things are very different. So again, it's not a rule set in stone, it's a tendency. These are a place to get you started in your analysis. You can't assume this is what it means, but this is a place to get started. And then dimension. When we talk about dimension, what we're essentially talking about is size. This could be the set or location, this can be the set decor props, and this could be the costume. Dimension can be used to show relationships. Maybe a scene is taking place and you've got two characters and the room is very, very large. So they're very separated from each other, and that's showing the relationship between the two characters. It can be used to create symbolism. So perhaps a character has lost a lot of weight but is still feeling very insecure. Maybe the dimension of their costume is that it is large and oversized, showing they're not really comfortable yet in their new personality. It can also be used to convey character. So if a character is wearing, say, very oversized clothing, that may be showing that they want to disappear. If they're wearing very tight clothing, maybe it's showing that they have changed a lot. Maybe it's showing that they want to show off their bodies. Maybe it shows they've turned into the Incredible Hulk and the clothes that used to fit them don't fit them anymore. And then we have repetition. Just like when we talked about screenplay and production design, repetition is a red flag. It's saying pay attention to this. And it is usually used to create symbolism. So we see something repeated with the set decor, with the costumes, even with the special effects, with hair and makeup. That is trying to create some kind of symbolic meaning and communicate with the audience.